Today we have with us Ethel Winn, as you'll hear me refer to her as Aunt Ethel. Aunt Ethel was raised in Citrus County, taught many years in Citrus County, and I think you'll be amazed how her memory, how articulate she is at the age of 102. So I hope you enjoy this as much as we do.
Now I have a paper here that I wrote that I gave a little talk to the retired teachers about 2 years ago. Of course I had it, it was just notes and I went by it, but it gives me just about what you want to know if you just look over this a few minutes, but I don't mind telling you.
Okay, well I just want to hear
All right, I went to high school here in Florida City Elementary. And through the 9th grade, and I was the first 9th grade class to come, the first 10th grade class to come to Himmel. From then on, went along then to all 4 grades came on to Himmel because it got where they couldn't take care of it for the city. So I graduated here, and then I started teaching. And when I started teaching, the only schools we had in the county, might say, was like every little community had its own school. Like Red Level out there, they had it. Red Level, they had a church, had a teacher. Out at Citrus, they called it, was a teacher, and then at Citronelle was a teacher.
Okay.
And like here in Inverness, out here, Cove Bend, they had it. New Hope had it. As I say, all the little communities had a house. So when I started teaching, I couldn't get it, well, we didn't have any school classes, only in Inverness and Crystal River. Crystal River at that time was just teaching through the 6th, 8th grade. Because their high school came here to Inverness and finished the same year as we did. And because in 1960, of course, they had put in 54, the big building in Inverness in Crystal River. They had the high school then with them. And so then in 1930 that I finished, they had the first graduating class in Crystal River. Wow. So I think they had about 6 for graduation that year.
Wow.
So as I said, from then I went on to teaching in Worthington. I stayed home. I graduated in April, and I stayed home because I couldn't get a school anywhere closer than Williston and around. And then they had the big old dirt roads everywhere. They didn't have paved streets and all.
No school buses?
So my family thought it was cheaper for me to stay home than it was to try to work, no more than they were paying teachers at that time. So I stayed with mother at home until February the 2nd, 1931, I started teaching. Mr. Montague, our superintendent, called and sent me a card. We didn't have one phone in Florida City. So he wrote on a card and asked me, did I want to take the school, that the girl there was wanting to go into nursing training. So would I take her place? Excuse me.
Bless you.
Just a minute, excuse me. So I had to think a lot going out there, but I had to go by both ways. I couldn't go any way to the school but by both. So I had to think a lot. And anyway, I decided to give me experience and have a place to go. So I grabbed it and went on. And so I taught out there then to finish that year, and then I went back the next year. And they didn't have any children for the next year. We didn't have but about 10 when I was there, and one of the families was moving to home as soon as school was out. So it was just leaving the Worthingtons for the Worthington boys in school. One was in the 1st grade, 2nd, and 2 twins in 3rd when I first went there. So they provided Mrs. Worthington, a home here in Crystal River for her to come and stay, so the 4 boys could go to school in Crystal River, and they had 2 girls in high school, because one that I had taught graduated at 8, so she was going to be here the next year in high school in Crystal River, and also the already had one. So she stayed there for the 2 girls could go to high school and the boys, so they never had any more school out. So the next year I went to Citronelle and taught, and that was the 2nd year I was there. They had 7 months school. The only school I can remember that we had less than 8. So we had 7 that year, and went on telling that thing, who borrowed the money to pay it and all that, So then after that, then I left there then and went to New Hope. because it was close home and I could stay home and drive, because Fanny was teaching at East Chatham. So we drove to school. She let me out at New Hope and go into Chatham to her school. So then the next year, I decided it was just too big. I had about 28 children there. That year we had such a tragedy that happened in the family at school, the school family. So I went to Red Level the next year and taught, and stayed with my uncle there, and taught for 2 years at Red Level. Because my other sister was teaching in Inverness. One of them taught at Florida City, and she changed to come to Inverness in the 5th grade, but her twin sister was in the 6th grade teaching. And my sister Fanny was a math teacher then, and no, she was with me, and she went to high school in Brooksville, and they just wouldn't let her know. She didn't want to come to Inverness High School because both of my sisters, I don't make any difference. They're in the primary school or elementary school, and I want you to be the math teacher in high school. So she stayed here till she retired from high school. So then from that,
That's why I was a good math
my
student.
sister that left Florida City as principal there came to Inverness in the 5th grade. Well, then I went to Florida City then in the first 4 grades, and then a teacher had 5 through 8. I taught that way 1 year, but our enrollment, they gave me a teacher the next year. I just had first and second. There for 9 years. So I got married and moved to Crystal River, and been in Crystal River teaching, working there ever since. I retired in 1987.
Wow.
And Ethel, the school you went to by boat, was that Rochelle?
That was the first one at Rochelle.
Okay, all right.
Wow.
It was on the island out there. And there would, well, before that, you know how you got the little paper showing the pictures and the teachers that taught out there. And it had dwindled down to all of them had gotten grown, you know, and was fishing. And it just wasn't a school there anymore. I don't know where I've never been back out there. I know they tore the old schoolhouse, this building, I think, down and used it for somebody on the island there, but I'm not sure. I never did go back.
How was the school day different back during that time? What was the school day like?
Well, the thing about it, we went to work around 8:30 in the morning. That was usually 8:30, and we teach till 12, and then we have a lunch from 12 to 1, and then we were there till 3:30 in the afternoon. That was most of the regular time to go and come. Of course, then we didn't have lunchrooms in the school, and after they started lunchrooms, well, it didn't make much difference, I don't think. Now, in M&S here, when I went to high school, we didn't have lunchroom, so all the ones in Canto came in and brought their lunch, and we carried our lunch in, so we'd sit out on the curbing of the high school there, where they got an eating place there now, where our school was when I was at high school. And we'd have go across the road and get us a bottle of drink, come back and have our lunch. That's what we did, and then we'd walk to town, down the walk, you know, down to the jailhouse, the courthouse, just spend the time, because the others had the full hours, so they could go home and come back. So we enjoyed it. The deans were as sheriff at that time, and we all knew them so well, we maybe go there and spend a little while with Winnie Dean, you know.
That's Charlie Dean's dad.
Okay.
That's right.
Wow. And how did you get to school every day? Did you walk, or was
Well,
there?
on the island, we had to go by boat.
Right.
We had to go by boat. And but the other times, down like Citronelle, Red Level, at Citronelle, I walked from where I boarded
Wow.
to the school. And then we got there, we had to, like, you know, do our own heating of the house, and we had to go out in the yard for a pump to get water, things like that. And all the toilets were way out from the schoolhouse at that time. That's where it was at Citronelle and Red Level. And then when Homicide out, when we first went there, we didn't have a lunchroom. Before we left, we had a good lunchroom there. Yeah. And there we just boarded across right by the schoolhouse. What I had to do was walk in around and come in the schoolhouse. There's our transportation there. And at Florida City, I stayed home, which is up there on the hill right from the school. So we never had much trouble getting to school.
Was there extra activities after school? Was there like sports and?
Well, like it was on the island, the girl that lived, that was there then, she was a crippled girl, and she didn't really graduate, she stopped school, and she was such a delightful person, I even roomed with her, because I stayed at the Worthington's house that had five that was in my school at the house where I stayed, and in the mornings we'd get up, have our breakfast, get our little school boat, and get going to school and come back.
What are some of your favorite memories?
I don't know all of them. It's been so much I can just picture myself. I wrote the history from the time I started school, was born, right on through till I was 100 years old. And I haven't added any to it since 100. And at the back I've got all my family pictures and things like that, telling everywhere I taught, who I lived with, how many children I had, and things like that, tell.
Wow. And what do you think about just the growth of the county right now?
Well, I just started to say it's so immersed. It's so multiplied that I just can't hardly believe it myself. It could be so. Because see, when I went to Crystal River, we didn't have the first canal there. That was all dug and built since I've been teaching in Crystal River. Till I say it, you just can't believe it when people that come back now to see what we've had. Because I can realize it just living, every time I come from Crystal River to Emin, it seems like I see something going up different, or getting closed out or something.
And what are your thoughts of the county now? Has it improved? Is there things you think that should be changed?
You mean the change is good?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know where I'd like to go back to teach now or not. I missed it so much when I stopped, until I've often wanted to go back now when I had so much to work with that I didn't have when I was coming in. See, we didn't have a library anywhere where I was teaching until I went to Florida State. There we just fixed a little one. We kept adding there, we had a little library there. But until then, we didn't have a thing but the books that we come here to the superintendent's office and pick up that we taught. That's the only kind of books that were in the school. No, anything, you had to teach what was taught. Physical ed, music, read stories to them, and well, all that.
And Ethel, when you said you had 28 students, were you the only teacher?
The only teacher.
You were the principal, the
Yeah,
assistant
I did
principal?
all 8 grades.
the
That's
counselor.
the reason I moved, because it was too heavy, I love it.
Wow.
She was everything. A one-woman show.
That's right.
What was your favorite position, do you think?
3rd grade.
3rd grade? Why is
Third grade, when I took over in Crystal River, I had the 3rd grade, and I just loved it. But I wasn't there but a couple of years, so they made me principal. So that made a difference. I was in principal, I made there for 4 years. My eye, I had attached retina. It was bothering me from book work and all that a principal had to do at that time. Cruella Willis was our district helper, and I'd say, Cruella, there's so much to fill out that. Well, now, if there's anything you help, I'll be glad to help you, but when you're that way, I just would have been retired. And then I substituted for a while, and I didn't mind substituting because the children understood me. They knew me. I went in and taught school. But the last year I substituted, I said I wasn't going to substitute no more, because I had to go in and make, as I was saying, be so harsh on them to begin with, when we settle down, then you could go ahead and teach. So that's the reason I say I don't know where I could take it today or not, whether they can do it a free. Some say they do it, I don't know. I go in Crystal River schools and things like that, and they have such good order and good class organization. I can't believe people say they just do as a free. But now when it comes to high school and things like that, I have no idea what they'd have to put up with.
What would be your message to other future educators?
Well, I don't know where I'd say teach school or not, but I enjoy it so much, so I certainly don't think I could put anything downer on it. They would enjoy it if they got in. And so many of our new teachers that have got into it are just making so good with it. Of course, those are just that I know personally that's helping in our schools in Crystal River. Now, our primary there is just a lovely little building. I just love it to go out there now. See what I said, they're gonna lose Terry this year. Though.
Yes, that'll be
Miss
a
him.
big void for us.
It's gonna be a lot.
She keeps an eye on him.
Donna's gonna miss him.
Yes, she is. You keep an eye on the middle school too.
Yeah, but I did more than I did last year. I've lost out just about. Up until then, in afternoons, one of the teachers would come out direct traffic when the buses are leaving, and Becky would come out, my niece, and I'd wave at her or something like that, and if she didn't come out, some of the other girls would still in for her, and we'd talk and keep up that way, but I haven't been connected with the middle school the last year on account of Becky don't have it. Of course, I know most of them are out there.
Citrus County, the school district, it has a history of being a top school district in the state, in the United States, with high test scores and performing well. What do you think when you hear that?
Well, I just think it's wonderful, and I know what I don't only just read it in the papers, I realize what we have. I'm connected with it, and know the different ones, and knowing how things are going, so I'm quite happy of it.
Great.
She's a part of the Retired Teachers Association.
Oh, yeah.
And she stays active with them, and I've been to a couple of their meetings, and every time I go, Aunt Ethel's right there with them. So,
Yep.
and they're very active in our schools, so they stay connected with all our schools.
Great.
Actually, I wanted to ask a question. Mrs. Winn, right? Were there any historical events that happened throughout that really made an impression on the school district and the
Were
students?
there any historical events through your time as an educator that made a huge impression on you, the schools?
Like the
or?
Vietnam War or the civil rights or women's rights? Are they?
Well, see, I went through the integration too. I was made principal like in September to start as principal for the primary school in Crystal River, and in October segregation started where we had to divide all the classes, and then I had to take we took the kindergarten, first 4 grades out at the black school. We had to take them with mine, what I had. Then they let the 5th and 6th grade go to the middle school, and Mr. Lewis was the principal of the middle school, and they took, Bill. Anyway, the black principal out at Carver
Robinson.
came to help him. So they just had the 2 grades to be integrated, where I had 5. So we had it was the biggest trouble, I guess, historical thing that I had to do while I was principal.
Was that Bill Robinson?
Bill Robinson.
Bill Robinson.
Yeah,
Right.
he came in with Bill to help with.
Martin.
We're supposed to get together in the next week, I think. For
Oh, really? Okay.
Middle school.
I better check that out.
Mary called me Monday or Tuesday and told me about it, and I thought I put it down, but I couldn't remember, so I called this morning before I left because I wasn't sure. So Bill said, I'll find out and call you. But it hadn't been done yet, and they were having a sorority group at Gales today, and I know they would have had both because a lot of them would have been in the middle school. But that is the most historical thing that I went through. I never thought about that a while ago when I was talking.
You know, Eryn,
It
you
worked
asked.
out beautifully. Now, the year before this happened, I had 2 in my class. I had 2, a boy and a girl, because they were allowed in our county the year before, you know. If they insisted in passing test and everything, they could come to the white school. So I had 2 in school that year. And we got along good though. Both the children, the little girl couldn't read at all, might say, when she started there. We were in the 3rd grade that year. And, but you can't imagine how much she improved during that year. All of them, Miss Winn, I just can't believe it. I heard several say that she could do what she had learned to do. Maybe she knew a lot of it and didn't know how to show it, I don't know.
Eryn asked about what's different and talks about our high scores and our success as a school district. And I say this to many, many people, that You have Aunt Ethel, you have her sisters, and I remember having her sisters in class, and the high expectations were set then. And I remember Aunt Fanny
Teaching you math.
teaching me math, and I'm telling, and it was there. It was, you know, there was no goofing off or anything, and she would call your house if you didn't get it, and she would stay after school if you didn't get it, and
She
you
was
know,
really a dedicated teacher.
she was, and as far back as that was, even though I just graduated a few years ago, I'm sure, but you know, the expectations of many of our past educators who have retired, they've just set a great foundation, a great groundwork for us.
Makes me feel good sometimes when somebody says, oh, I'll never forget you one that taught me how to write, or so-and-so, well, I sure learned how to read when I was under you, or I'll do it, you know, you just can't help from feeling good when they come back and tell you something they enjoy.
And when you talk to people like Aunt Ethel, and you can hear the love that she had for kids, so this profession's certainly a calling. It's not because of any other reason, it's just people with a good heart.
I said there were several years I couldn't go anywhere in Chris River, anywhere it wasn't. You hear somebody holler, hey Miss Winn, hey Miss Winn. But they're all grown up now, and a lot of them, you know.
Do you see any of them still?
Pardon me?
Do you see any of them
Oh
sometimes?
my, yes. Now, for instance, we had the picnic for the high school, the ones that went to high school Chris River years ago. I always go, and it must be over 100 that I had taught me.
Wow.
Had to come
We're going
around.
to work on doing that at the high school this year,
Sure enough.
so everybody can have a tour of the new high school.
Well, good.
Now, Aunt Ethel's not my biological aunt, but I was raised with her niece, and
They started the kindergarten
Yes.
together, went on through school, and then went to
Aw.
Ocala together.
went to
Then they
college,
taught together.
and then we lived together. So we've been a part of families since kindergarten, and
Yeah, I
probably
said she seemed
before.
like one of the family,
Yeah.
right?
Wow.
So, good lady, precious lady.
Well, thank you, I appreciate that.
Did they have, I was just thinking, now they have like iPads in the schools and technology. What was it like to have like the typewriter when it was introduced?
I would too.
What was it like to have the typewriter in school with technology changing when they, because now they have computers and they have
Oh, I
iPads.
know, and that's what I said a
Yeah.
while ago, I'd love to teach again when they had things to work with.
Uh-huh.
Now, even the year the last year, I was in 3rd grade, it was helped because we had a good library. Bonnie Lewis was
Mhm.
librarian that year, and we could let the children go get their books and come in. It made a lot of difference, even that then, you know.
Did you use the typewriter in classes?
No, we didn't have a typewriter.
Not yet? That was before then.
No, you didn't teach typing anything.
Wow.
And now they just can do a lot of it.
Mhm.
I think it's nice to teach them early how to do things. Sometimes I think they rush them a little bit too much, but maybe not. 'Cause those are able to get it, and then those, I had a girl Monday morning, never thought anything about it till right about 1 o'clock. Well, it was about 12:30. The bell rang at the door, and I opened it, and this girl was standing, this lady. And she said, you don't know me, do you, Miss Winn? I said, yes, I know your face is familiar. Now, who, Betty, I said, of course, I know you're Betty Roddenberry.
Oh,
I
wow.
recognized her. She came and stayed nearly 2 hours with me, and I was right tired before she got through, because we just talked about everything that happened when she was in school. I didn't have her, I turned it up too much, then I broke my real hearing aids. I'm almost having to have an appointment already to get me some new ones. Yes, sir.
I want to ask Mrs. Winn, what's the secret to a long life?
You have to talk a little louder.
He said, what's the secret to a long life?
I tell them it's just decent living and hard work.